Welcome back to Chat Shit. That's the semi-finals in the books for 2025. We have two ridiculous preliminary finals ahead of us. We're expecting 100k at the G on Friday night and another 100k on Saturday night. We have two huge rivalries, Geelong and Hawthorn, the Easter Monday rivalry played in multiple grand finals in the last couple decades, and then Collingwood and Brisbane, grand final 2 years ago, and they've won the two most recent premierships. It's going to be absolutely huge. These are four teams in the premiership window well and truly. We had two comfortable wins in the semi-finals from Hawthorn and Brisbane, which we're going to break down today. And what that means is that Geelong and Collingwood, who look like they're sitting pretty, they're going to have two teams at the absolute top of their game charging into the G to try beat them.
Well, just on that first game, it was the first time that first place has been knocked out by 8th place in AFL VFL history. The first time since 1983, the first has gone out in straight sets.
Yep.
Let's jump straight into it.
Absolutely pissing down here at the top. Marcus has kicked up. Jesus! Usain Bolt wouldn't get him now.
The legend becomes immortal.
We'll start off on Friday night at Adelaide Oval, and I want to focus on the home team first. Now, Adelaide will feel crushed by this straight sets exit. You've just mentioned how historic it is in the worst possible way, but I think that this is a team that is well and truly good enough to win a premiership in the next couple of years, and they're just at the start of that window in terms of their age profile. It's about how they can channel this result that they'll be really upset with. Can they channel it into a real fire in their belly for next year? Or are they going to have some, straight sets hangover and not be at their best next year and sort of have a bit of self-doubt? I do think that they'll respond in a positive way because for the large majority of this year, there seemed to be such a synergy and a confidence in this team. But what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is there's been a lot of pressure on Adelaide, both on-field and off-field, which they failed to respond to in the games. And, being the first team since 1983 to go out in straight sets, all this historic stuff, it's a tough pill to swallow. But if they just accept what happened and examine how they can deal with it better, especially in terms of their mentality, I think that they can bounce back pretty fresh next year. I just think that a lot of it was very clearly mentality. They have the football ability. They just weren't quite there. They weren't playing the footy that got them the minor premiership. And you'd hope that with a clean preseason next year, they should be good to go.
Well, I think it's really important to mention as well that they moved from 15th to 1st, which is a positive record. They went from there. It was the biggest jump in AFL VFL history for a team to go that many places up from one year to the next. So they've got a big future.
A lot of history.
And they're still a really young list as well. So they'll have no problem. They would have loved to win a final just to have that sort of experience that we'll mention with Gold Coast a little bit later. But they'll be back. They'll have no issues and they'll be, like you said, they'll want it more now that they've gone through this. But just moving into the Hawthorn side of things, and there's a single stat that I want to highlight that speaks to a finals-hardened Hawthorn versus a first-time finals appearance for Adelaide since it was the 2017 grand final where they lost by 48. They lost contested possessions by 31. For reference, in round 21, they won contested possessions against Hawthorn by 11. So I asked myself, why such a drop-off? A 42 contested possession team swing. For one, Hawthorn came into this game with finals experience, winning a final last year and hungry for more. Second, and I've heard on other podcasts that it wouldn't have made such a difference if Isaac Rankin had played, enough of a difference for them to win. That's where I kind of disagree. Rankin had the highest amount of contested possessions for any Adelaide player this season and was a top 30 player in the competition for average contested possessions across the entire season. And it's just the flow-on effect as well of the other mids getting easier opposition targets and fear of what Rankin can do and what is so special as well.
I think the answer, where's the number 3 and his name's Jai Newcombe. Obviously not the only answer for this huge swing, but Jai Newcombe in finals is a different beast.
Yeah. No, 100%. He's been the best player in all 4 finals that he's played, best on ground, which is absolutely ridiculous. But Adelaide lacked a serious amount of speed in this game, which I think made it a really controlled game for Hawthorn. And when they don't have any speed coming out of stoppage, when Berry, Dawson, Soligo, they're not the quickest players. Like, they might beat you around the ball, but just being able to get out the front isn't great. And according to Champion data as well, they were the 3rd slowest ball movement team in the competition for the last 10 weeks of the season. So we lose Rankin, and it's a pretty boring brand of footy that you might play. And back to Hawthorn, What is their game style? They love to turn the ball over, move it quickly, and find the open forwards. Gunston, 5 goals, 3. Nick Watson, 2 goals, 4. A lot of scoring shots. And with the Adelaide game being quite predictable, with that sort of down the line, sort of hopefully take a contested mark, which has worked for them a lot this season, and it has sort of allowed the Hawks to set up, get the likes of Battle, Sicily, Scrimshaw, Barras, and Hardwick up and going. They all had huge games in their own right. And then when the ball was moved so quickly from one end to the other, the strong Adelaide team defence that we've come accustomed to couldn't get going at all. And we saw Gunston leading over and over again on Mark Keane, who just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, I think the key to beat Hawthorn is in the midfield. Hawthorn's back line, absolutely bulletproof, so strong, and their forward line is so dynamic and exciting. The way to beat them is in their sort of undermanned midfield, doesn't have any real stars outside of Jai Newcomb. So when Hawthorn can find a way to either level the playing field in the midfield or get on top of you, you're really going to struggle, and that's what we saw.
I'm absolutely looking forward to the hardest of hard tags that Jai Newcomb is going to cop against Geelong.
Ocean Mullen.
Yeah, it's 100%. Everyone knows it's probably coming, and I'm going to be really interested to see how he gets through that. If he can get best on ground in that game, it's going to go a long way for Hawthorn getting that success. Let's move straight into the coaches' votes.
I've got 5 votes Jai Newcomb, and probably the easiest decision I've had to make this year. 4 votes James Sicily. Awesome. 3 votes Jack Gunston.
Yeah.
Keeps doing it. 2 votes Blake Hardwick, who was just fantastic. And 1 vote Josh Battle, who's really showing everyone on the big stage why he was All-Australian.
I like it. I've got a lot of different names there.
Good.
So 5 votes Jai Newcomb. 4 votes I gave Jack Gunston. I think he just tore apart that Adelaide defence all night. 3 votes I gave Jack Scrimshaw, so another Hawthorn defender. 2 votes I gave Josh Ward. And 1 vote I gave to the Wizard. So very different there. I like it. Let's move straight into the next game in Brisbane versus the Gold Coast.
Yeah, Brisbane's finals experience really shone through, I think more than anything else in this game. It seemed like they were, unlike Gold Coast, sort of able to block out any of the talk and expectations, the bright lights. They just applied irrefutable pressure to the Gold Coast team from minute 1. From that first siren, and the Suns weren't able to deal with it. I like, how can you really when there's that level of pressure? And then when Brisbane got the ball, their transition game was elite. It was led by Zorko, with Ashcroft and Berry also getting a lot of the ball on the outside and using the ball really well. But Zorko especially, just really willing to consistently take on dangerous kicks, and that then sort of filtered through the entire Brisbane team. And he executed those kicks at an amazing level, always seeming to find his target. We talk about this sometimes with Errol Goulden at the Swans, that when you just have someone that can take on kicks and do it so well, it encourages the rest of the team to take the game on. I think Zorko does that for this Brisbane side. And then when you're just, as an entire 22, just hammering the opposition when they have the ball, and then you're taking the game on when you do have it, this Brisbane team's really hard to stop.
It's a really exciting brand of footy to watch as well. And in the lead up to this game, it was all the talk was beware the wounded Lions, because it seems that every time they lose, they've been able to bounce back hard the next week. It's like they really want this. They really want to show what they're able to do, and are disappointed with the performance they put in the week before. As for the Gold Coast side of things, this was men against boys for me. Gold Coast would have driven up the highway with confidence, winning their first final against Freo in the West, and knocking Brisbane comfortably over by 66 points in round 20. But to me, it felt like Gold Coast had their grand final last week and put absolutely everything into it, mentally and physically. If you had offered Gold Coast, though, at the start of the season, a top 8 finish and winning a final, they'd have probably bitten your hand off. So we have to respect them for that. And what they gain from this final series will be extremely valuable for the years to come with such a young list as well. In this game particularly, they couldn't handle the pressure that Brisbane put on them. I'd love to see a stat, I couldn't find it anywhere, on fumbles and dropped marks in this game, because I've never seen anything like it. Top players looking nervous and unsure on the ball. And again, that's a testament to Brisbane's pressure and the noise from the home crowd. But they couldn't handle Brisbane's speed and accuracy from the likes of Zorko, who just took the game on over and over again. And Brisbane made them defend the entire ground. And Gold Coast looked tired, especially towards the end of the second quarter, and especially through the third and fourth quarter. And then after Max King had taken 3 marks inside 50 in the first 10 minutes on Darcy Gardner, Harris Andrews sort of was sent to him, and pretty much the game was finished from then on. But I think Gold Coast will be disappointed with how they finished overall, but happy with the season.
Yeah, I think obviously they'll talk about publicly how they're disappointed. They sort of have to say they're disappointed. They thought they could do more, which they absolutely could. But I don't think you'll find a much happier team to sort of get smashed in a semi-final because they've done an amazing job this year. There was a real taboo at Gold Coast about will they ever get it done, and they got it done so much more than they could have hoped.
We both had them winning this game as well, so they're a really good team and they'll 100% be back next year pushing for a top 4 finish.
Completely, and that's what Damien Hardwick spoke about. Moving on to the coaches' votes. I love the wedge coaches in this scenario. 5 votes Josh Dunkley, and it's just seeing a player who
we didn't really mention him.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
We're about to mention him.
Yeah,
a player that has the talent to have 33 goals on his day and just really tear you apart, but he just sacrifices himself to take down the other team's best player. That's the kind of human being that Josh Dunkley is for Brisbane. 18 tackles.
Yeah, well,
against Matt Rowell, who's been unstoppable.
100%. And I talked about it in the Finals Pyramid last week. Whoever sort of won this battle between Rowell and Dunkley was going to go a long way to winning the game. And it felt Dunkley smashed him for me. I mean, most tackles ever in a finals game in AFL VFL history. We've had a lot of records this weekend. Yeah. And he was 2 off the record for any game in AFL VFL history.
The season-long 1v1 battle between Dunkley and Rowell was maybe the best matchup we've seen so far this year. 3 games against each other. Dunkley does basically this the first time they played, and Brisbane won, and then Gold Coast smash Brisbane, and Rowell has 38 and 2 goals or something.
Yeah. I like how open the Chris Fagan was about it as well. Yeah. They were talking to him before the game, and he said, what's your plan for Rowell? And he said, Josh Dunkley's going to go to him. Yeah. So everyone knows it's coming. Everyone can look forward to it, and it's great to see in the game.
There was no point hiding it, was there?
No.
All right. For me, 4 votes Will Ashcroft, 3 votes Harris Andrews. He's a multiple-time All-Australian for a reason.
Yeah.
2 votes Hugh McCluggage.
Yeah.
And then 1 vote Dane Zorko, who I mentioned.
We had very similar lists. 5 votes Josh Dunkley. I had Harris Andrews for 4 votes. I think he just ended the game as soon as he was put on Max King. I had Will Ashcroft with 3, who arguably could have been best on ground as well. He was really slick, young Lockie to me with how good he is with his hands. I had 2 Hugh McCluggage as well, and I gave Zach Bailey 1.
Yeah.
Who had a really good game, but there were a host of Brisbane players that could have picked up votes in this game. Let's jump into the next segment in the Finals Pyramid. Into the Finals Pyramid, and this pyramid is sort of based on, in the upcoming round, which players are most important and getting their team the win. So, just got 3 tiers. In the 3rd tier, I've got Nick Dacos here. If he can have a huge game against Brisbane, it's going to be interesting who gets the role on him. I think it'll be Dunkley, but it could be a guy like Jared Berry maybe goes with him with a tag. But we know that Dacos can rip a game apart, can win it by himself if he really gets going. Again, on the 3rd tier, I just have Holmes and Smith together as sort of a joint duo. We know they're coming. They're a really hard duo to stop. Not an easy 2 guys to tag just because of their running speed and power.
Hawthorn not known for tagging.
Not known for tagging, and they don't really have that quick guy that can probably go with them. So they are going to get a lot of the ball in the game. It's just what they can do with it. And also on the 3rd tier as well, I just have Harris Andrews by himself. We know that Collingwood don't have the best forward line, so it's how, and they're a really intelligent team, and Craig McRae's, they're going to work on this all week, how they can go around Harris Andrews, because the more they bomb the ball down the line, the more it's going to suit Brisbane in their turnover game. Moving into the 2nd tier, I've got Tom Atkins, because I think he could be the guy around stoppage that potentially plays on Newcombe. It could be Oisin Mullen. But I think if Geelong just want to go head-to-head, potentially, it could be a guy like Tom Atkins. It might not be. But Tom Atkins is going to be huge and just thwarting any Hawthorn pace and speed that comes out of the midfield.
I'll tell you, Oisin Mullen and Tom Atkins in the same midfield while you have Smith and Holmes charging the other way.
It's fun.
I mean, is there a more balanced midfield that we've seen over multiple years? It's just the 2 maybe best running midfielders in the comp and then 2 of the best defensive midfielders in the comp.
I can't believe that every coach doesn't employ or have some sort of tag that they can go to. I know we talked about it last week with Dave. We didn't really mention it with Gold Coast, but Damien Hardwick, he's never tagged in his coaching career, but we sort of said don't get beaten by what you know. Don't let McCluggage go crazy. Put a body on him. They went head-to-head with the midfield and got smashed.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you can take a guy that's probably outside your 22 and not going to be playing unless he's in tagging and take away their best player, I just can't see why you wouldn't go about doing that. But I guess that's coach to coach. It depends how you want to play. In the second tier as well, I have Josh Dunkley. I think he'll be the guy that is going to go to Dacos, especially around stoppage. If he can prevent him getting like first use on the ball and being able to like make those 15 meter, 20 meter kicks around the corner, it'd be huge for Brisbane winning this game. And in first, I just have the Hawthorn back 6. Yeah. So Geelong don't have the strong, bar Jeremy Cameron, they don't have the biggest names in the forward line, especially tall. Guys that are tall are going to win the ball in the air. But if the Hawthorn back 6 can sort of take control, especially with the ball coming in and be intercept marking, not allowed to hit the ground where the dangerous Geelong smalls are going to be roaming around, it's going to be very tough for Geelong to score. If they can't move that ball quickly and get good looks, and Hawthorn can intercept, we know the intercept and the power that they have in these 2 games so far, it's going to be really tough for Geelong to kick a winning score.
Yeah, if Geelong, and especially Shannon Neal and Jeremy Cameron, are able to bring the ball to ground, you got Dangerfield, Dempsey, Stengel, and Brian Myers and Sean Manor all just like chomping at the bit too. And I think that they could, really have their way with the Hawthorn's smaller defenders. I don't know who Amon and Impey go to because every single one of those Geelong
extremely threatening
are so dangerous.
We're going to move into the next segment. It's one we haven't done before. It's just this week, AFL Finals players that were sort of a surprise performance. You didn't really expect this from them and they overperformed. Or had a really good performance.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with a couple players on Adelaide who, they didn't perform at their very best as a team, but I thought that Josh Worrell and Wayne Malera both can really hold their heads up high with how they played. Wayne Malera, starts on the bench a lot for this Adelaide team, but he is not fringe 22 at all. He is an absolute stalwart in their defence, and he showed why this game. Early in the game, set the tone with 3 huge contested, I don't know if they counted as contested marks, but they were contested marks. Intercept, he's an amazing intercept player, and he's undersized for how he performs in the air. He's a below average height defender and can be really, really dominant in the air. So he's an exciting player that I think will be around for quite a while at Adelaide. And then Josh Worrell, we know a lot of people thought he should have been All-Australian this year. Then you mentioned Zach Bailey, but what a season he's had. Wouldn't have been expected to get the All-Australian that he did. And then, as you mentioned, he was coaches votes worthy this game, 3 goals, and he can really be a game winner. I want to mention Blake Hardwick, who I had in my coaches votes, and lots of Hawthorn players have been coming out this week in the media talking about just how underrated he is. And the world of footy is starting to see now that he is not just a serviceable backman, genuine star. He is. You talk about a guy who plays so much taller than he is. That's Blake Hardwick. He's the size of a small defender and intercepts like he's Tom Stewart or something.
I feel like you really have to be in a good team to get noticed as that small defender. You don't really get the credit when your team's conceding 100 points a game and you're doing a really good job. But when your team starts standing up, you can sort of see these individual performances.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just also want to mention Josh Weddle on the Hawks, who not coaches votes worthy in terms of the volume of impact, but when he touches the ball, every time it's just massive impact. You can throw him anywhere on the ground and, he can leap into the air and take a specky. He can take 5 bounces and charge up the wing. He can, he's just can do anything, and you have no clue what position he'll end up playing when he sort of settles into a role, if he does, but he could do anything, this guy.
The ultimate swingman. Yeah,
and he has, All-Australian potential written all over 100%. Him. And then the last one I want to mention is Bodie Hewland. On Gold Coast, who were also shellacked, but another one that stood up in defence. I think he is phenomenal. Last year came 3rd in their best and fairest. This is how he's viewed within this highly talented Gold Coast squad. This is how he's viewed within the team by the coaching staff. And he is similar to how I've talked about Blake Hardwick, highly underrated and really, really consistent in their defence.
Nice. I'll go through mine now. Just from Gold Coast, it was tough to pick out any good surprise performance, but I had Will Powell, so similar role to Bodie Hewland. Always seems to get the job done, isn't really noticed. Will take a few intercept marks per game, really accurate with the ball, and sort of just pops up and plays his role perfectly each game. And I think he did a really good job in this game. I had Josh Weddle as well. He's also just coming off a pretty long injury setback, and then he played the game almost unexpectedly against GWS, and looks to be a guy that if this Hawthorn team can win the premiership from 8th, he's going to be a huge part of that. It just seems to be settling in more and more with the more game time he gets back from this injury. I also had Josh Ward, who I had in my top 5 best players. We know Hawthorn's missing sort of that midfielder and Will Day, and potentially even one more. We know the talk with Zach Merritt currently at the moment. But we know he was a high draft pick. If he can sort of settle into this role, he can potentially be that midfielder that can sort of take them through, potentially past Geelong and potentially all the way to a premiership. I know it's just those role players who can fill spots and do a really good job. For Brisbane, I had Kai Lohmann. He had a really interrupted season this year. Was injured a lot early, kept coming back and getting injured, was the sub.
And also wasn't at his best because of all the injuries.
Yeah, 100%. And he really struggled. And he got the haircut. He's got the full buzz cut. They mentioned it countless times in the game, whenever he did anything. But he's just a bit of a surprise package, whatever he does when the ball hits the ground and gets into the forward line. And he's just really explosive. He'll fly at the ball. And it just feels like Brisbane has sort of been missing this with Charlie Cameron's absence, who also is another guy I want to mention. He's been really down on form this year. People have been calling for him to get dropped, spend some time in the VFL. Chris Fagan trusted him. Had a huge game here. Wasn't just sitting in the forward line, deep in the forward line the entire game. Was up the ground, in the defensive 50, on the wing, taking marks, picking up players. He was doing a lot more in this game than he'd done in the previous probably 10 weeks. So it's going to be huge for him.
Yeah, on Charlie Cameron. Someone in the media over the last couple of days was talking about how Chris Fagan, known for putting trust in his senior players and sort of giving them quite a few more games of sort of a leash than other coaches would give. So Charlie Cameron been really down on form, but Fagan just going to see it out and wait for him to get back into form, keep trusting him, and I think that bears really good results for Fagan and good trust from his players.
I like it. He's a real manager rather than it doesn't seem very tactical from the outside. Seems like he's a real, they've mentioned him as sort of a father figure to the group. Just a couple more names. Jared Berry, who we talked about before, just had huge numbers in this game. He could even get the job on Dacos as well, just with the running power. And Josh Worrell as well, who you already talked about. Probably we thought he should have been All-Australian, and he proved that in this game.
Yeah.
We'll move into our finals predictions.
Friday night, Geelong, Hawthorn, 2 Titanic
Massive
teams since 2000, and they're back at their best. Can't wait for it. I'm gonna tip Geelong, and I'm afraid that it might be comfortable. I've really loved what Hawthorn have done over the last couple of weeks. They've simply been awesome, and they're probably the team that I'm most excited to watch out of this 4 is Hawthorn. But Geelong, from a week of rest, I'm just thinking about that battle once the ball goes to ground in Geelong's forward line, and then I'm thinking about Ocean Mullen and Tom Atkins with a week's rest, and then Smith and Holmes with a week's rest just bursting the other way. And I think Geelong will win the midfield battle. I'm worried about what their small forwards will do against Hawthorn's small defenders, and then I think that Geelong's defence will hold up quite nicely. Hawthorn looks like they can really do anything, but I'm afraid that this Geelong team is just too good.
Yeah, I've gone Geelong as well. I think the 2 weeks rest is absolutely huge for older sides especially. And I think it'll be really close. I don't think there's a chance of this being a blowout just because of how strong...
You don't think there's a chance?
No, I just think because of how strong Hawthorn's back six is.
Yeah.
And I know if the ball comes to the ground, you'd probably back Geelong in the forward 50. But if it doesn't, and I feel like Hawthorn will do a really good job, and they have done in the past few weeks, of intercept marking and rebounding quickly, I think they're gonna kick a lot of points off turnover, and I can't wait for this game. This is the one I'm really excited for from the 2 games.
Yeah. Collingwood, Brisbane, as I spoke about at the start of the video, the last 2 premiers, they played in the grand final in 2023. I can't really pick between the 2 prelim finals which one I'm most excited for, but I'm going to go with Collingwood here. It's really tough.
Yeah.
This one I can't really see a big margin in because I think both teams are just going to perform at such a high level. These are 2 teams who both these squads have every player on the field almost will have won a premiership in the last couple of years. They know what it takes, and they're going to not be holding back. They're going to be playing with confidence, playing their brand of footy, and it's just going to be about who plays better on the day. I'm just going to edge out Collingwood. Don't really know why.
This is really tough
Yeah.
to pick because the 2-week break that Collingwood have had, and they obviously haven't been in good form at all, but we saw the 2-week break did for them against Adelaide. I know Adelaide weren't playing their best football, but still, you've got to turn up and win. The 2-week break is quite scary to just get rest and more preparation into the older legs. I'm going to go Brisbane here.
Wow.
I think it's risky with the rest that Collingwood have, but how Brisbane played in the game against Gold Coast, I think if they can replicate that, I think this has potential for a mini blowout.
Yeah, and some people have been calling Brisbane, a bit of Dad's Army. I think if they're Dad's Army, Collingwood are Granddad's Army. So we've got Dad's Army versus Granddad's Army.
But this was really tough to pick because if Collingwood win, you're like, okay, 2 weeks off, they're an experienced side. Like going into the final series, no one really had Collingwood as doing a whole lot, but just suddenly off 2 weeks rest, they're a scary proposition. I'm gonna back Brisbane here, and I like that we've gone a bit different this week.
Yeah.
But these games are going to be 2 ridiculous games to watch. I can't wait.
Oh, I hate that it's Monday, or Sunday. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, we'll see you all on the next one.